Hey, Chris, do we look live on your side?
What is the redstone?
Oh, hold it. Oh, yeah.
I don't know, it's from Boot Barn, so
Okay.
probably plastic.
Fair enough.
Looks like coral.
Looks good to me.
Okay. All right, well, I showed 10 o'clock.
Great.
Oh, everything's, yeah, everything's good.
All right, it's 10 a.m. here on October 16th, 2024, and I will call to order this meeting of the Grand County Budget Advisory Board. We'll jump right at those here present as members of the board are Kaufman, Wojtek, Winfield, Hackwell, Throgmorton, and Vowles. I believe that Commissioner Walker will be entering the meeting shortly here. We'll jump right ahead into action items, discussion and consideration, approval of minutes for the Budget Advisory Board meeting of October 9th, 2024. I would entertain a motion to approve those draft minutes.
So made.
Motion by Throgmorton, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Throgmorton, second by Hackwell. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Okay. Can we get a Kaufman vote on that? Treasurer Kaufman, do you vote aye on the minutes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That motion passes 5-0. Winfield and Walker absence. And then I'll hand it right over here to Budget Officer Stephen Vowles to lead the presentations and discussions of today's meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys. Today we have 3 departments. The Old Spanish Trail Arena, Economic, and Tourism, and Active Trails and Transportation. Or is it actually Active Transportation and Trails?
No.
Okay, good. Very good. And all of those department heads are here. So, but just kind of a little context before we get started. This is what I'm showing here. It's like the timeline to get to our final budget, which is the end of the year objective. Right now, we are on the proposed budget stage to deliver what's a tentative budget. This Budget Advisory Board here will recommend the tentative budget to the commissioners on November 1. So we're really just reviewing the proposed budgets. Today, there will be no approval or denial of anything. Today is to talk about, complexities, issues, considerations, constraints, really just to understand the budget and make sure that it looks good to be going into the next stage. So we do have an interesting meeting today. We have, there's just a lot of detail and a lot of complexity in these 3 different budgets. So what we'll do is I have created a 1-pager that I've worked with you guys on, and we'll allow the department lead to kind of walk through. We'll ask questions. Like I say, just to walk through it and make any notes or any follow-up actions on those. So with that, let's start with Angie on, there's a couple other things I'll just mention here as well. The top line items of each budget is employee salaries and benefits. Presently, we have the 2025 estimate without a cost of living adjustment, which will be approved separately as a line item. So that's one side note. And I know everyone's asking about revenue too. How much is revenue going to grow? So right now we're really looking at we're looking at expenditures. Not so much forecasting revenue by department here, which will be a big factor in the budget, but today we're really just looking at the operational or other types of expenditures. So with that, Angie, let's go to you.
And you want me to start with the narrative, right?
Yeah, let's start with, just a high level description of what. And Angie does have the narrative on here, but this is for posterity. Oh, Angie's done such a great job. She has so much detail here. But anyway, describe the narrative and then we'll go through the lines.
Okay. The Old Spanish Trail Arena is experiencing some changes and needs to adapt accordingly. I'm sure this is seen throughout the 2025 budget request. OSTA has been in higher demand with an increase in community events and incoming of additional permitted events. The highly anticipated development of the playground, pickleball courts, and archery range also adds additional items that will need attention and maintenance during production and after. OSTA would like to request an additional maintenance technician, and the cost is already included in our salary total. OSTA has also been managing the full 65 acres with old law enforcement fleet vehicles. Transitioning these large, non-fuel efficient vehicles that have high maintenance needs for utility vehicles that could be on a program that covers the maintenance will save us money in the end. Overall productivity will increase with the proposed utility vehicles as they are designed for the maintenance worker. The arena building is 30+ years old, with the outdoor arena portion dating back to the early 60s. Both of these areas are in high demand and need restoration or general maintenance. The OSTA budget has also taken on cost of the mobile stage, which has seen an increase in use. A majority of the OSTA budget requests are focused around safety and lowering the overall maintenance cost, along with meeting the demands of our growing community.
Okay, well, very well. So we don't need to go over every line item
Okay.
here, but let's talk about ones that stand out. Like I mentioned, let's jump
Okay.
over the employee salary and benefits,
Mhm.
though it's important to note that we have included
Okay,
that,
yeah,
that
so-
extra.
yeah, so you'll see in the salaries that, the both that it's included, and then over in the comments what it is with it not included. So the first item, just the first item that's,
Yeah, you
the
know,
red box.
yeah, you can,
the
and
travel.
that's another thing, I highlighted the red-ish boxes, which are budget items that have increased. That might be just more of
Okay.
a discussion point.
So we'll start at travel. My travel, expenses are up because, I'm budgeting in for, myself and 2 other staff to start, schooling and attending an academy. It's called the League of Agricultural and Equine Centers, Footing Academy. It's a series, and this will provide education for myself and the staff, for Arena Equine Center specifically to, for management and for the footing, of the arena floor. And it also provides other things as far as management of arenas, event centers. There's so much information that's learned through these programs. But it provides an accreditation for the employee and also the arena. And it's a series, so this year we'll be attending the first set, and then the next year will get us to the next step. And this is something that will follow the employee through their career. And then, the arena itself will be accredited, so it's something that we'll be able to virtually be awarded, and there's not, but I haven't really found an arena in Utah that has this accreditation. There's several in Colorado, but no in Utah, so it'll be pretty cool to be able to have that. So that's travel. Equipment maintenance. In 2024, I had to cut 3,840 out of the budget, so that's just being added back in to bring us back up to where we normally are. There's a 15% still increase, which is, it's just, that's seems to be the norm since COVID. And then I've also had to up what I need for, our implement teeth to purchase. It's almost doubled just because of the arena use. The implement teeth are the actual steel pieces that go on the implement to work the arena floor. They wear down, so they need to be replaced. Vault toilets, that gets done every other year, and so it lands this year that vault toilets need to be cleaned. Additional maintenance for the swamp coolers. The swamp coolers have just reached their span of their life. It's one of those things that are just doctoring up and they're expensive. We have 6 of them, so. I've added some extra fees because I've had to buy motors this last year and some other pieces to go into those. And then maintenance costs on the fleet, vehicles, which could go down if. We start swapping those out, but
And do you have detail of this? Because I wanted to point out, you have separate tabs here for a lot of the detail.
Mhm.
This one detailed under here as well.
for,
The expenditures tab.
like in that other,
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point to everybody that Angie has done a lot of detail on these other tabs where she's with the detail. I just. wanted-
yeah, I don't know if I put it in there, but I know it's on my spreadsheet.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I put some stuff in
There it
there.
is. It's like
Mhm.
10:45.
And there might be more, I could give more details, cause I have a whole nother spreadsheet where I have it broken down even more, cause the implement teeth, I have several that I have to buy for, so I could even break it down more
Okay.
for you there.
Well, let's just walk through it in not
Yeah.
too much detail.
Yeah.
And so everybody kind of understands, and then this I just pointed out, there's all that detail in the separate tabs. You can either
Yeah.
refer to them.
Buildings and grounds, so in 2024, I had to cut 2,000 out of this account, so that's putting that back in. And it's also to budget in $550 to add an HVAC system into our electrical room. Since adding the new sound system, that room, it's all computerized, so that room gets extremely hot. And when the sound system reaches a certain system, it goes into a safety mode and starts shutting down, so it doesn't work at full capacity. Which we ran into some issues with the rodeo. It affects all that, so we really need to be able to get that room to stay at a certain temperature. And then 2,900 to budget for new door lock systems and cameras, which that could be removed if Matt from IT gets his proposed funding for his security system,
Right.
but if he doesn't, I need to replace some of mine. Everything else is just general maintenance.
Yeah.
Stuff.
But let's just, unless there's anything that really requires an explanation, maybe we'll just scroll down here.
Okay,
Um,
utilities increase facility use. So it,
that's just
the total base
inflationary,
for
or-
2024, with the remainder of the year being projected.
Hmm.
Same with the ball fields, just increased use with the remainder of the year being projected. The fuel, Glenn, I usually speak with Glenn, he's now retired, but he told me to average it at a 10% increase. That, of course, I would suspect could go down if I'm able to switch vehicles out and surplus some of the larger fleet vehicles down to utility vehicles. The professional technical line, we have added AutoCAD to our system, and there's been a small increase in the Event Pro, and I think Canvas stayed the same. I think it was just Event Pro and then adding that AutoCAD. Saw maintenance, budget was completely cut in 2024. And we were going to amend this fund in 2023 to use it for the stage training, but it got pulled at the end of the year. So I lost those funds completely. And the barns have taken a pretty hard hit in 2024 with storms and just overall repairs that are needed. So these funds will be used for lumber and welding supplies and some paint. The event prep and ball fields, we're requesting a hotspot, and that would cover the monthly the monthly fee. And that was quoted by IT. And then I've also had to increase what I need for paint for the soccer and the softball fields, because the demand for the uses went up. They're getting used more. So we need to paint the fields more often. And then same with work, crew supplies, there's just a slight increase. Because the AED electronic pads need replacing every other year. So it falls on the year for to replace those. And then same with the eye washing stations, they will be up for being replaced. And then I figured in the workwear for the additional employee. And I split it up between, for the next line, I split it up between the arena and the ball field.
Mhm.
So it's the same thing for the next line, I just made it between the two sides between the arena and ball field. Miscellaneous 620. This is where I put the stage, the mobile stage that we manage. So the county owns a portable stage, and OSTA manages it. And to operate the stage, you need to be a certified operator. And currently we only have one certified operator, which I was able to manage and get that taken care of through the year, but it was extremely difficult. I really need to get additional people certified on that stage. So the quote came back between 6,000 to 7,000 to get 4 people certified. And then we have gotten multiple requests to start adding some accessories to the stage. And the stage is being rented out more, and then it's all of those events have already been booked for next year with additional events coming in. So it's pretty much going out every other weekend throughout, starting in the spring, throughout the summer, ending on Halloween. So that's.
The rental pay for itself here or not?
No, this is a community. This is a
It's just.
gift
the
that
only one
Grand
in state.
County is providing to the community, yeah. But we've been asked for the floor extensions and the sunscreen sidewalls. So that quote has come back in at 8,500. So that is where that's
Okay.
at.
And I will just jump over here, Capitol Building, there's a long list down here at the bottom,
Mhm.
and we're not gonna go over that, we'll bring this into the Capitol. Budget Advisory Board meeting where we talk about this, so there is quite a list here of Capitol Building projects. Just as an FYI, but that's just noted below. We can talk about those if we need to, but we did leave in the capital equipment request, so maybe a little different. And actually it's the 92, now that I'm on this,
Oh.
it's the 92,390, just the sum of everything you've got in here, like.
Yeah.
31,5, the 28, the 29, plus 15,
Yeah.
16, okay, so it's really like 3 items.
Yeah, do you want me to talk about those?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the capital equipment, is OSTA. What I'm trying to do is to make OSTA more efficient with the changes that are coming up. So we have the playground, the pickleball courts coming in, the archery range coming in, and then just the overall use, the community use of OSTA. And right now, all of our fleet vehicles are the old police fleet vehicle trucks. So we're driving these old trucks around back and forth to the property, stop and go, which get parked out front. So we put shovels and all that stuff in the back of the truck, and then we have to take them out at the end of the night. And we can't just drive these trucks on the grass and so on. So what we would like to do is to be able to surplus all of these old trucks and actually get into more of a maintenance UTV type vehicle that our tools could stay in, and then we could park them into a shed. They would be more fuel efficient. We would be able to drive them straight to where we need to work. Things along those lines. And there's also options for these vehicles to be on a lease program, like how the road department, Cody, has the other lease vehicles coming in. So we're not having to pay for the maintenance and they're being leased out. So eventually at some point they'll start paying for themselves.
What's the UTV vehicle?
What's that?
What's the UT meaning UT vehicle?
Utility,
Okay,
yeah,
so it's
yeah,
all just maintenance.
yeah,
Truck.
it's maintenance stuff, yeah. So they're not like true utilities, they're more like maintenance vehicles,
Right,
yeah,
and the lawnmower, so it's really
Razor,
equipment.
the
Yeah.
little UTV vehicles that drive everywhere, all.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
they're more set up to where we could put sprayers in them and our shovels could hang off of them and things along those lines, and our implements could hook up to them and dump trailers and stuff.
So this budget really is 2 of the UT vehicles
Yeah.
plus a line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then we would be also able to surplus vehicles. And those could go to auction and get some of those
Okay.
back.
But you haven't really counted that, cause I count like 30 times 2 plus another 30, there's the 90-ish.
Yeah.
But the $15,000-16,000 that we could surplus or get money in that we could potentially offset. it.
Yeah, and that 15 to 16 doesn't count the lawnmower.
Right.
Like, sort of, yeah, so, so that would be 2 workmen / gators, whichever one we decide to go with. It would be who would be able to give the better lease option and
I didn't
has the better,
you lease the UTVs, I didn't know you could,
what's that?
I didn't know you could lease the.
Yeah, John Deere has a leasing program and so does the workman. Depending on how we
Okay,
go with that, who has them.
And that,
There's better options for each
that
one.
includes the maintenance cost as well.
Mhm.
So,
Well, that price that's right there is to purchase them outright.
Right.
It
if
could
you
get,
lease them, it could.
Yeah.
You're saying that.
Yeah.
Or Cody said that.
Yeah,
it
there's-
includes the maintenance.
and that was me going out just trying to get a quote for here. This is not Cody going out and working his magic. So it could get better.
Okay.
Um,
all right, keep things moving along.
Yep, and then the other item is our 0-turn lawnmower. It's been acting up. We had some refurbishing done on it back in 2019, 2020, where we amped up the radiator and added some extra fans. Kind of made it better for a little bit, but this past year it's started overheating again and acting up, and we're kind of just babying it along. It had to go in service for a little bit. It was down for about a month. Had a rented lawnmower, so it's just one of those things where it might be at that time. So I'm just putting it out there. Can we get a couple more seasons out of it? Maybe. But I thought I should start talking about it at least. And if we do trade it in now, we're gonna get a better trade-in value on it because it does have fairly good mile hours on it still. And it is still in good condition. It's just the resale value on them just plummet. So I wanted to put it out there that if we trade it in now, we'll get higher value on it. But it is something that is expensive. They are about 28 to 29,000 new, but we definitely need a lawnmower. I mean, it takes us 2 days to mow 10 acres, sometimes a day and a half, but, and we have to mow every week. So,
I was just curious on I mean. 0 turns are nice and everything, but have you looked at the different like tractor options that have lower implements that you utilize?
yeah,
Other things with.
the only thing is if you go too wide, then you're running over sprinklers.
No, I was just curious.
A 72-inch deck is about the widest we could go.
It's like a tractor, Kubota, that's a small one, or
Yeah.
lawn tires and stuff like that,
Yeah.
or John Deere, that you can get the lawn mowing, that also comes with a loader bucket and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
around the same price.
Yeah, and that, it just puts it too wide and then
No, I was just,
yeah, and then you're doing that turn, trying to make that turn, gets a little.
Yeah.
Complicated, because we do have the tractor and we have the different tires that we use for like our hopper and stuff, but. Then those sprinklers add up.
just curious.
So that's that with the lawnmower, and another item on here. So it's just the lawnmower and the gators on that line. Yeah.
I'm on the last three here.
The next one would be inventory. This amount would be for 100 chairs and with a rack and the shipping cost. We currently have 128 chairs in inventory and trying to build it up. It would also include a golf cart for our admin assistant, and it would replace a old fleet vehicle. She's currently driving, I think, the very first Dodge Charger that the sheriff's department had. And that thing is, it's pretty bad. Yeah. The golf cart would get her where she needs to go on the property, and then she could utilize one of the other vehicles when she needs to go into town. And then it would be to, the inventory would also be to replace an admin laptop that needs to happen
This last on YouTube.
next year. And then also to purchase 4 new water troughs for,
Oh, it's just, yeah, it's just.
and then for the ball field side, it would. The 5,700 would include a new pressure washer. Our current pressure washer is extremely hard to move. It has to be moved on a pallet with our tractor. And it just needs to be tinkered with every time we start it. You have to like jiggle this one, you have to flick it here and kick it here, and it's just an old pressure washer. And we have to use it a lot. The pavilion needs to be pressure washed before all the events. We use it to pressure wash the tractors. It gets used frequently. And then we need to purchase another AED for the scorekeeper's building. And the last item is schooling, and that would include local USU courses for all the employees, CPR renewal for 2 employees, CDL medical renewals, an applicator renewal, and then the registration for the league synopsis and a footing academy. For 3 employees.
Well, thank you. This is a lot of work. I mean, this is a big privilege around here. So when I see this budget, it makes me think like, if she's running a business out of this place, I mean, this is very complicated. A question to the board, or even to you, do we have a board that actually works for the Spanish Trail Arena, or is it all on your head about what to buy and run?
No, it's, there's an advisory board, but this is.
But this kind of stuff is
Mhm.
just all you?
Mhm.
All right, well, it is important to note down here at the bottom, we're 140% of last year's budget, but I think you did a great job of describing just the state of the equipment required.
Most of that increase is from the capital equipment line and miscellaneous services. They were zeros for the last 2 years.
And the mobile stage.
Yeah.
That was, yeah.
Yeah. And like I say, it's worth mentioning, there is still a pretty good list down below, capital building projects. You know, it looks like just roughly $500,000, maybe more here, just take a quick look at that, but we'll bring up these up in the capital projects, budget advisory board. So here, let me just pause for questions. I think you've described it, but I think, in my opinion, it just requires a lot more analysis of like what is really required to maintain some level of quality and security.
Yeah.
At your facility.
Yeah.
Anybody else on the board have questions or suggestions where to go?
Mine isn't so much for Angie, and I know we've talked about this previously of making sure that the departments were aware that we were looking for a flat budget. Or that we were looking for flat
Revenue is flat.
projections.
Yeah.
Revenue for this coming year, so I think people need to be aware that it's gonna come back. And we're gonna have to go through some of this. I'm not, that's everybody. It isn't just this one, and Kevin, of course, can chime in any way that he wants, but I see it being a real issue with some of these budgets. With a huge ask over the last year's budget now. I don't know, maybe we're gonna get a windfall here somewhere, but we just need to be expecting.
Yeah.
A different scenario when it comes time to start working this all out.
And I agree with Bill very much, but I do also think it's important to make note of the actual costs that your building needs. And that way it's.
We need to be
talk
aware
about
of it
it
for sure.
Yeah.
and So on, so that way people can see like, look, this is not just a simple thing.
Yeah.
You have building costs, have equipment costs, you have to have that. I mean, it's.
Yeah. Well, and then also to get the feedback back, because especially this year, like if something gets pulled, and then in 2025, if it does become an emergency situation where it does need to be repaired, like what's the order of priority that things get done?
And do you have, just a question, you probably do you have like an equipment maintenance like schedule, like how Matt does his schedules for computers, right?
Oh, yeah,
So after so
Oh, yeah.
much time, so that.
I have a schedule for
Right, so
everything.
you
I have a
to
log
replace
for every,
things, or
yes.
when you paint on a wall, like, you can
Yeah.
pretty much say this is how long it
Yeah.
lasts.
Oh, are we allowed to pass on? One thing that we just found maybe an opportunity, it wouldn't be this next year, but in talking with the governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, there may be an opportunity to put OSTA into an application for a rural county opportunity grant. So we're trying to understand what that opportunity is, because that could be fixed around the county, so.
Yeah.
That's just, I just wanna put that out there, cause we just kind of became aware of that. It's definitely worth pursuing,
Yeah.
that we should pursue first.
And I do want to comment on what you said there as well about guidance. You said like, let's consider it flat. I've instructed everybody to consider revenue to be flat. But in departments like that we're hearing today, I did say, describe what you think it's going to take to run your business. So at least we can know, and then when we have to come back and squeeze some budget, you know, I wanted to start with, what do you think it's really gonna take to run your business next year? Even though we may have to tighten it belt a little bit here.
Well, and the other side of that is, I don't know what we do for billing out of OSTA, because we do hold an awful lot of events there, and are we under billing? Should we be looking at possibly what events are being charged to come in there? I don't want to charge them so much that they go away. But I also wonder if there isn't an avenue there to look and see if
Yeah.
we don't need to adjust. And I know you've got the overtime that I saw up there, and I know that's huge for you out there sometimes,
Mhm.
and
You know, well, and I appreciate what you're saying there too, because my first thought was to develop a business plan. I mean, OSTA is an asset. It can be utilized for, I don't want to say revenue generation, but to offset costs.
Yeah,
right,
You know, like what can we do? What else can we do to,
that's
to bring in
point.
additional fees to help offset these costs?
What are the revenues? So that's been, like,
Right.
we talk about, and cause I know they have a revenue. Most departments in the county have some kind of revenue.
do you want me to comment on that?
And so, I mean, we don't
Yeah.
necessarily need to discuss it in this meeting, but I think it's important if you're discussing a budget, what are the revenues? I mean, we're talking about how our revenues are
Yeah.
flat for coming into the county, but like a lot of departments have some sort of revenue. And I think it's important to know, because we sit there and talk about expenditures the entire time, which is the biggest thing, because the county has to put forth that money. But I think it's also important to say, like, OSTA does bring in,
Right.
say,
Yeah, no, I
200,000
don't
of
know what
this-
that is.
of this 500 or whatever it is, so that way it does cover certain things where it's, that way the taxpayer can see like, look, this is, yes, it's a big cost, but it's not as big
Yeah.
as you think.
That's a good follow-up, because I did say, oh, go ahead.
I just have one quick comment
Yeah.
for y'all. So we did just send out, it's just more of an FYI, the consolidated fee schedule yesterday to start revamping what the fees are gonna be, because whatever fees we wanna charge for the next year. So if it's a really good time to look at adjusting those, if that's what needs to happen, because
Yeah.
It's how going out right now, and once it's set for the year, then we have to start the process all over again to change.
Right.
it, so.
And so the
That's
thing is with OSTA is a unique facility. The thing is it is also a community facility. So those facilities generally, historically, never make money. They are for the community, so they are always putting out money because they are supposed to be for the community. So with that being said, they're not supposed to generate money.
But it's-
But it does bring in money. I can
Right.
tell you the revenue has went down since I have not, I had to pull back on some of the camping because of zoning, issues. So camping is currently only allowed if it's a permitted event or they're coming in with equestrian, boarding. But before that, camping was allowed just when like the campgrounds were full or other scenarios. So I have seen a drop there, but if we were to put in set up designated campsites, that would be that we would be able to pick up revenue largely
So-
there. That would be one. As far as raising prices for the venue, I think our fee structure is pretty comparable with other arenas. If anything, I actually get a lot of complaints because our prices are too high. Because if you look at it, everything individually, you think it's low, but then when you start looking at everything in whole as the event builds, it builds quickly. Cause it's not, and that's what myself and the assistant director are trying to do now is we're trying to do tours and look at other arenas and see how they do things. We just toured an arena where they give the key to the arena and just turn it over, and they actually let people drive their tractors and work their arena floor, which boggles my mind. I would never allow that. You could destroy an arena floor by letting someone else work it, but I charge for all that. I charge for every run of the tractor, every hour an employee's there, every parking lot. I charge for all of that. So it builds up with how they build the event. But also community events are free and youth events are free. So
So,
Alright.
just very quickly on the revenue side of it, I do believe there's some portion of state code that addresses that, on how you can charge your fees. I don't believe you can set it up to where you make money off of it, but you can set it up to where it's offsetting your
Yeah.
costs, so it might be worthwhile for somebody just to look up what that code is. And figure out what those parameters are.
with the BLM patent, we can't make money. It can't be for profit.
Okay, all right, for timing, I'm gonna try to end this discussion because we have two other very interesting topics here as well. But again, we're nowhere close to being resolved here, but at least understanding what the budget is, so we can take next step. Kevin, I think did you?
So, okay, I'll go ahead and speak. Sorry, I'm having trouble talking into.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. But, I just wonder whether you can analyze your costs, and I understand like the community recreation events, there were definitely not. You know, that's a contribution to the community, but if a for-profit event comes in, hopefully we break even on it. So I don't know if that's something you've done before, deciding what your fees are, but if not, it might be worth revisiting. Make sure we're charging enough so that we're not losing money. Sure, that's.
And then if I could just get my word in, in the one sheet there, just responding to Shan's good point about revenues. If you scroll down a little bit in the section on the left, right under the budget. No, just go back to the budget, and then scroll down a little bit there.
Oh,
There is a section that I put in there in this template that is called Department Revenue Codes. And so we can identify any revenues associated with this department, and I would say, and also in following up and finalizing these documents for public consumption, for commission consumption, we could even add another section in there or add a parenthetical to that cell that states what the projected revenue would be expected in 2025 to accompany this entire document.
And one other thing I just want to add is the Special Recreation Board does pay my monthly M&O. So I do get reimbursed from them for that. So they do pay the utilities, and a large portion of the bills, so.
All right, well, let's end your discussion to David. I think you and I could, I've done a couple notes, but I think just clarifying revenue. Or revenue, actual revenue, just to know how much of this cost is offset. And then maybe an inventory of which of these maintenance or operational costs are absolutely required. That way, when we get to potentially tightening, or when we get to tightening the belt, we know what our priorities are. So I'll continue to work with you on that.
Okay.
Okay. Angie, thank you so much.
Yeah.
You're actually free to go. We're gonna put
Okay.
someone else in the hot seat. Maddie is up next. Actually, before she goes, any final comments here?
Well, you
There you
did
go.
It was very detailed.
Yeah, very good.
Yes, it's
I was
very,
gonna say, you can see my other spreadsheet, I can see even, I can tell you how much I spend on toilet paper.
you're like the ultimate homeowner.
I-
you know,
I
like-
know.
like the money.
I have it, I've broken all the way down.
Oh,
All
right.
right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. All right, and Maddie has an incredible amount of detail as well. And actually, we did put some of the revenue in Maddie's one pager, although we're not gonna focus on that today. I did say, hey,
Mhm.
it's a reference because you have a lot of grants and other things, so we may refer to the revenue as a reference. But I really wanted to start yours up here at the top.
Want me to
and-
read
but
mine?
anyway, maybe you can go ahead and introduce.
Yeah, I can read
With
my
budget.
narrative and talk about it a little bit, just to get you oriented. So, like Angie, I have the budget kind of the overview, and then there's tabs with different breakouts of things I thought would be of interest. Or not, you guys tell me. But overview of it, so we are, coming in at just under 92% of last year, so coming in below our request for last year. 80% of the budget is, coming from grants, agreements, donations, which is pretty good. I think right now it's like 11 sort of different agreements we're juggling, and next year it'll probably be more, hopefully. And then the remainder is, we actually don't use the general fund at all, so we use optional sales tax for the infrastructure of active transportation and trail developments. And then transient room tax for the educational and shared projects with economic development. And so just a, quick overview of the department, we have 5 full-time positions. 2 of those have complete or partial grant funding, and then we have between 14 and 18 part-time positions. So really a lot of our like boots on the ground work is being done by part-time staff, which I think is important to recognize because like for, I think one of my line items that has gone up, and I can talk more about that, but like the trainings. I think those are really important for staff retention because you can end up spending a lot of money on one full-time, or you can have these part-times, but then the downside is that there could be high turnover and we lose a lot of productivity. So we've been pretty successful in that providing these trainings and opportunities for professional developments has really kept people sticking around for multiple years, which is very helpful to us. And then a few of our big changes for next year, big projects, is that we're doing at the Mud Springs Phase 1 construction. And part of that is gonna involve a contractor, which we have a grant for, so that's, a big line item, but it's covered by a grant. And then similarly, the non-motorized trail master plan update is gonna, we're gonna kind of start it this winter, but it's gonna be primarily next year, and that's also in the technical services line item, and it's grant funded. So there is like a lot of interplay with the revenue side. So even though we're not supposed to talk about it, we might talk about it a little bit just because that explains some of these big line items. Responsible recreation program costs have gone down a little bit because some of our projects were like one-time expenses, and we've completed them, or we will have completed them by this year. And we also, the paved path maintenance, this one's changed a bit because in the past, and this kind of carried over from like Zachariah, Mila, Chris Baird, kind of more of the planning and zoning but the line items in this budget, where we were putting 100,000 in every year to pay for those like big, maintenance projects, as well as saving up for a match for a grant. And as of this year, that is now funded, which is great news. So we don't have to like keep building that up every year. So if we had continued with that pattern, it would have been about 600,000 this year. But now we don't have to do that, so it's gone down to, I wanna say, it's in there, but much less than that.
I'm sorry, what is it? It's funded?
The gap, so the 128 paved path.
Oh.
There's that gap, that quarter-mile gap to Grant staff, where it just kind of dumps people out on the road.
Okay, sorry, I thought you were talking about the maintenance of the existing paths.
Yeah, so that line item does include all of that. But that was like kind of this big expense we were basically saving up for. I mean, I think the whole cost is 8 million, so we weren't ever gonna save up that whole amount, but saving up for a match. Grants, but there's now some funding available for that, so we don't have to save up the same way. And then another change to that line item is that I've been working with Sean, because the maintenance staff actually does, like, they sweep the dirt off and they do a lot of that maintenance. And he didn't have like a number of how much that cost. So this year we worked together and he gave me a number, which is in the expenses tab. So that can be coming out of optional sales tax instead of the general fund, since it's transportation.
I don't know, maybe we'll just go through some of the detail here, but I think you did call this out, you're 92% of last year's budget, but which is. You don't really have like a standard operational budget here, yours is very unique, so that's. Just a data point. All right, employees and benefits, the same, just based on current estimate. No COLA, but there are no increase, new position requests included in your budget at the moment. Right, okay, all right.
Is that, sorry, does that include that you had presented before the commission about a position to manage the non-motorized trail master plan
The
project?
temp position,
Yeah.
actually, that's a good point. I don't think that's in there, but that is 100% grant funded. So it's captured in the budget. It just might not be in that line item.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
just enough.
Yeah, good call.
Okay, and again, Maddie, we don't have to go over every line item. Again, color coded green means it's gone down from last year, reddish, oranges, it's gone up from last year. So maybe we should just talk about the reddish ones and, or anything that's unique like this one, paved maintenance, but I think that's what you were already talking about. But anyway, walk us through it.
Okay, so focusing on the,
Yeah, mostly
The orange
the
ones?
reddish.
okay, let me find that. So I guess the first one is equipment, supplies and maintenance. And so if you go to the expenditures tab.
Okay.
It's all, like Angie, I have everything broken out into line items.
And which, oh yeah, which is.
Scroll down a little bit.
This one right here,
Yep.
okay,
So this is mostly coming from just like required maintenance schedule, like the oil changes. We have a fund for bike staff bike repairs if they're using their bikes a lot to access work sites. We have a policy for that. We worked out with HR, I forget, but it's like a certain number of hours using their bike and then they get a stipend. The box trailer maintenance is for our box trailer that actually belongs to the state. It's from a grant from like,
okay. I don't think we need to
ago.
go over each one of these, but
Okay.
this is what, this is what you've got in that line.
yes.
Utilities, I mean, the utilities for utilities. Oh, and this is half, we decided we share half with Andrea, right?
Mhm, yeah,
Okay. The 65, is this one you were just talking about, or this?
Yes.
Now that we're down,
yep, so there's, and Bill Jackson helped me with this, so there's 15,000 estimated for the bridge inspection on the paved path. Crack seal, flood damage repair, I put that in here because, they're doing some work right now, but also it seems like those, there might just be some additional that spills into next year, could go down a little bit. And then, some drainage improvements, which would decrease the amount that Sean's crew has to be out there, like removing dirt from the path. Seems like a lot of that dirt's washing on there because some of the drainages have filled in. And then that outlines just how many hours his staff spend out there maintaining.
it's interesting, you budget this, but Sean actually does the work, right?
Yeah.
We probably have some transfer.
Yeah. And I think the reason, and we can that certainly doesn't have to be the case, but the reason for that would just be because it's the optional sales tax. So it'd be,
Yeah.
you know, he basically would invoice and then we would pay for it out of that as opposed to general fund. So.
Fuel, just inflationary. Vehicle lease. Pretty much status quo. I mean, you're down a
Yep,
little
status
bit.
quo, and that's actually gone down a little bit, but that's from Cody.
Mhm. All right, this one's gone up, the professional and technical, but it's grant funded, so this will be paying for itself.
Yeah, so that was the one I just mentioned. So we have a portion for the Mud Springs contractor, which is grant funded, and then the non-motorized trails master update, which is grant funded.
Is there a match for us in this? Or
The match for the non-motorized trail master plan update is actually coming from a contribution from the city. And then Mud Springs, there's a contribution from San Juan County because we're basically helping administer it, but they're paying, they're the applicant for that. So we're not basically.
Okay. We can jump over these three administrative costs. Go to here.
Okay. Miscellaneous supplies. So again, there's a uniform stipend for essentially boots and pants. We have some volunteer appreciation funds in there. So we have a volunteer event and business outreach coordinator. And so these are the funds that that person can use to, like, you know, buy pizza and donuts when we have a volunteer event. And so the trade-off is, I think we have, you know, it's like about $2,000 in pizza and donuts, and we get about, you know, 60,000 in volunteer labor. So it's a pretty good exchange, I think. We have a end of season staff lunch. And then we have, I guess the largest line item in there is hardware, lumber, logs, paint, and gloves that aren't on grants. So we do have a lot of that stuff on grants, but this is just that little leftover bit.
This is just about, this is kind of, I'm kind of confused by this, but the Spanish Valley Trail Drive Trail. It's under your budget, but it's really gonna be Dan Stennett that's gonna do the work, right?
Well, so it's managed by there's a steering committee, so like Bill, you're on that. So there's a group of us, but Dan's the one who gave me that number. So basically that's the full amount that's grant funded minus the year-to-date actuals. And then he does think we're gonna be able to expend all of that next year. That'll be under contract.
Okay, this is an interesting one. All right, responsible rec transfer. This actually comes from you, Ben. This, right? I mean, it's actually, I have an offsetting entry on Ben's side, and hopefully this is done right, where 157 responsible rec transfer, then into Maddie's fund. So I think you and I talked about this. I don't know where that number came from, 157.
It is on the breakout tab.
Oh, it came from.
So, yep, it's, so if you go to that breakout tab, we can just look at it. I mean, there's a lot of line items in
Which
here.
one, the expenditure line out?
Yep, it's, if you scroll down till you see the green.
Down low.
Yep, just keep
Oh, there.
going. Yeah, so every line
Oh,
item
okay.
is broken out.
This is, oh, well, there's the answer to the question
Yeah.
right there, like, okay.
And so, I mean, there's a lot here. I don't think probably you guys want me to go over it, but if there's any specific questions. The color coding, so in this green section, if it's white, that's using establishing and promoting recreation TRT. If it's yellow, it falls more into the establishing and promoting tourism TRT. So that is more of like the traditional swag, as it's, you know, as the marketing community calls it. We call them educational and incentive items, but those are basically things that say Moab on them that we hand out to people and then they take back to their homes and, you know, put stickers on their laptops or whatever. And then our digital outreach. And then everything in blue is stuff that we co-manage with Ben, so it might be me doing parts of it, it might be Mick or Ben doing parts of it, but they're kind of, you know, require both teams.
The top section of this.
Yeah, just the section that we're talking about, just so we can see the
Oh,
kind of on the tape.
yeah.
Yeah, just.
So what question to the board, what conversations do we as the board or even the commission have on establishing responsible recreation expenditures? Or is it on that?
I believe that it could even possibly be somewhat in limbo at the moment as we're working through the audit, so
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure that this will be accurate. Totally after that's done, it might change somewhat up or down.
This is using status quo.
Yeah, it's basically status quo, like, but more refined, because now we've run the program for 2 full years, and so, you know, rather than being like, here's how many stickers we think we're gonna give out to people, we have a little bit of a better idea what that number actually is.
Okay. Well, that's definitely a consideration to take in looking at this budget. Well, let's go walk through it just to get full context, or is there a question here?
One thing I was gonna say is, just on the, when you said in limbo, and where this is going, we all, the National Park Service, all the public lands, chambers by region have been invited by the Utah Office of Tourism to, town halls, because they're moving on from their Forever Mighty Five, campaign to now a stewardship responsible recreation campaign that will probably be delivered in 2025. So in terms of where this plugs in, this is what the state UOT campaign is actually targeting right now. So that's just some background for context.
But I'm thinking the types of things you're using recreation TRT and tourism TRT on, similar to our previous years.
Yeah, exactly. Same.
Okay. Just keep walking down here. Oh, you're almost to the bottom of the green. Looks like training's next.
Trainings.
Oh, responsible rec training. So is that,
Yeah, okay, so this one's a little funny because basically I have training and travel, and then I have responsible recreation, training and travel. So there's like 3 different areas, and so last year was kind of a bummer because I think that got missed, and basically one of those, what I'm trying to say, we consolidated them, and so the overall amount, it got cut, and so it went like down by like 70% or something from what it was the year before. So this year we were very tight for the training budget, and so this year I tried to bring it back up. So it says 0 for last year, or actually no, that says 12,000 for last year, but basically the 3 categories have created a little bit of confusion from year to year. But I do have a breakout that shows like what all of those are. So if we're looking at the responsible recreation training and travel, so this is specifically for the 3 full-times in that program, and then the 8 part-times. And so we have some conferences in there. So the main ones that we want to go to next year are the Utah Outdoor Recreation Summit. This is put on by the state. State gives us all of our grants, so we like to go and you know, make sure they meet all the staff and do that networking, because that's you know, what ultimately funds a lot of our program. The Utah Trails Forum is more of like the nitty-gritty trail development side of things, but we have had the Trail Ambassador program. They've requested that we present in the past, so we've often sent a person or 2 from their responsible rec program as well. The NOVAC, the National Off-Highway Vehicle Conservation Council Annual Conference, is something that this year we couldn't, it was one of the ones that got cut. But next year we hope to send someone to it. It's usually like out of state, so we have to purchase a flight, so it's a little bit more expensive, but also we've got feedback of, you know, the motorized program is important, and so we want to try and get our full-time motorized ambassador to one of these conferences at least 1 year. The Global Leave No Trace Summit is in Colorado. And that's one that we've presented at the past. It's been helpful to go to. It's one of our partners, both for us and economic development. And then we have some professional development in here. We've gotten requests for conflict resolution courses. And let's see, Adobe InDesign and Illustrator. So like some skill building for the software that we use. Should I just go into all, like, should I just keep going?
No,
into
you
all
don't, no,
these?
you don't even.
Okay.
I mean, it's actually under this expenditure tab.
Yeah, it's all, yeah, sorry, that's what I'm reading off of. It's all in there.
Okay. Again, let's just walk through it so we understand what your numbers are.
I will read it, but I don't, what's the distinction about which one goes in which?
Oh, okay, so the training and travel, those are for the trail staff. So I usually put myself in there, I put our operations coordinator in there, and then
So
the
it's a
trail.
responsible recreation versus trail maintenance.
It's so the staff, yeah, so basically it's like the staff are kind of split up in this way. Yeah. Versus having them all like in one bucket.
Let's just jump on this one, inventory.
Okay.
And that's, maybe I can just jump to that one too.
Yeah, it'd be good.
Tell me where it's at.
It's gonna be under the green one.
Sorry. This one right here.
So yeah, technology, the biggest ones are technology, software, and then tools. And so the technology, this came from IT. We just need to replace some of our computers that are aging out. For software, I mean, I can go into these, you know, Adobe Suite, that's one of the larger line items, but it's really important. Like, we use our GIS for all of our map making, and that talks really well with Adobe Illustrator, and so we're able to make all of our maps in-house. Hootsuite Social Media Planner, this one and this is one too that I think economic development would be interested in too. It basically allows you to it tells you what's trending, and so then you can kind of tailor your social media to get more reach. And it also allows you to schedule posts and things like that, so.
No, we won't need to go into each detail, but we do know that this number is really a lot of IT stuff.
How is
Hardware, software.
ArcGIS so cheap? Is like an enterprise license we share with everybody?
I think it's the county, and then we have we pay a portion of it.
Okay. And then this training, this is the administrative training here.
Yes, so then so the other one was, the 3 full-time and,
Yeah,
responsible rec staff and the trail ambassador staff, and then this one is the trails program staff, so 2 part-time and 2 full-time and 7 part-time staff.
now is this like the schooling or just required training to do their jobs?
Oh, good point. So actually in that other one, part of the reason it's so high is because there's a higher education reimbursement in there. So that does get lumped in with the training. And that's something that's in the Grand County policy handbook.
Okay. All right, so let me just suggest a summary of this as well. I think there's a big open question about how we are going to adjust TRT spending. But as far as a budget year over year is concerned, I mean, it is the budget. It's what you presented that you would like to run your business. It's less than last year, but I think there's a lot of fluid nature to this budget that, and I guess I'll just kind of look to you, Gabe, and the Budget Advisory Board on where to go, or maybe we won't even have a conclusion based on the state audit of what hard changes need to be made. But I think we can say we understand the budget. We got all the details here. So Maddie, you've done a great job. I think we just have this as kind of an open question before we go into the next stage of recommending the budget to the commission.
And that's, I think maybe to articulate what you're getting at is that once we receive a conclusion from the state auditor's office, there could be, there could be an ongoing disagreement regarding the use of, establishing and promoting, recreation, film and conventions for use in this department. I think that that's kind of spelling out exactly what you're talking about, and so I don't know that there's much to comment on that particular topic at this moment.
I would agree, I mean, as the budget advisory board as a whole, I mean, budget's in, it's documented, it's explained. I mean, whether it gets cut or whatever, I mean, whatever discussions you guys have with the dates in regards to the TRT and state audit and all that other stuff, that's like any of our other budgets that are gonna come back saying that you guys need to either cut here or do this here, so that's gonna be at that point, I would imagine, at a later date, so.
Yeah.
It's very informative. So.
And Matt-
I had it looking at it because I can't see it.
So Manny, I would say, I think we're pretty much finished here, but I would say probably similar to what we talked about Angie. But in Angie, I said, hey, think about the equipment that you must have next year to run your business and what you may not need. You may have a similar, you do have a similar activity here, but yours isn't equipment, it might be services or other. So just be thinking about what is true to you, that you hold true to be able to really run your business and maybe what's optional. So when we come back with whatever comes next, you're in a position to adapt or adjust.
And just so you know, the budget you have on there is not the same on the county agenda.
Oh, we made a few changes this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need a new grip hoist cable.
That's why I was squinting, trying to see.
Good, nothing gets by you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's only like $1,500 different, but,
No, it's like, well, your training one, it's like, you added.
oh, because, that's because I had.
5,200, That's 19,000, then you added 2,000 to the IT one, that's different. So it's 15,000 on the one,
I-
17.
IT should be the same, so I had a
Yes,
separate
I
line.
can't see, and that's a 5 instead of a 7. It's different.
The changes I made were the schooling was a separate line item because we thought that higher education should be elsewhere, but then we lumped it back in with training.
Okay.
So same amount, but
Either way,
it moved.
there's $2,000 more on the IT one on that one. It's on the new one.
I think it's inventory. The inventory
I
line,
just said IT because
okay, yeah, that's for a grip hoist cable.
Okay. All right, well, any final questions for Maddie, or we're gonna conclude yours? Okay, let's move, but I don't wanna take just a 2-minute break. I know I need to run quickly, so before we go to Ben, let me just pause. Or do I have to officially do something to just pause for a minute?
Yeah, you just mute it.
All right, so guys, we're just gonna. Oh, yeah, I'm just gonna mute it, and we'll be back in just 2 minutes. All right, meeting is back after a quick break. We're gonna go to economic development and tourism with Ben and Bigger.
So start with the narrative.
Yeah, just give us a quick overview.
So we came in with a much higher budget. Did you want to say anything before that or just?
No, I will suggest what I said earlier, though, that the guidance I gave you was come in with the budget you think it's gonna take to run your business under current conditions. And I understand could be a lot of, I mean, I'll just say it, in every article of the Times Independent, there's the story like spend on promotion, and so the idea was to bring in a budget.
Okay,
That's
I
based
just
on
wanted to
current
qualify, we had that conversation. So,
conditions.
narrative on that is, in the EDD, which probably has an opportunity to be renamed this year to more, of a DMO model, which, instead of a destination marketing, office, there's also the opportunity to be a destination management office. And so, as we go forward, we're looking to really implement a DMO strategy. There's with a lot of due diligence over the past year, the addition of a Trail to Tomorrow strategic plan and some other inputs, for instance, our love metrics, and those things. It's apparent that there's been a lot of tactics that have been run out of that office, a lot of purchases of assets, but not necessarily efficiently being used, not necessarily tied to a comprehensive strategy that has a drill down. So we came in with that model and opportunities for things to plug in as we build that model. One thing that's been very common in the metrics, both from our visitation studies and what we learn when we look at the love metrics, is the key metric that we're focused on is average length of stay. And that is not something that's unique to us. We're hearing it from every other DMO in the state, all the other counties. They're starting to ask, like, our hotels discounting, how do we keep people longer? That's the nature of the business. But I think where we have an opportunity is we need to go more with a strategy that's an inspire, inform, and then monetize. Because our visitation studies and what we've worked with RRC and a lot of the people on the strategic plan side, TTRA, the travel tourism, research guys, our Harriman Globals, is that we're very hard to get to, we're very expensive to get to, and once we get here, people are staying just a little over 2 days. The model that seems to be happening is in that model, in those 2 days, most of the time is spent in either 2 national parks or the 1 major national park, Arches, and then a state park. So while they're in play, they're also away from where they can monetize. So we're not, we're out of the ability to get into our restaurants, into our shops and those things. And there's a lot to do here. And I don't think we've communicated that well. There's equestrian, motorized, activity, non-motorized, trails, hiking, just visitorship. So the idea there is to change the model a little bit. One thing that USU Boot Camp is saying today that we've heard over the past is, and a lot out of our Trail to Tomorrow is you have a tourism local model, which is, or tourist versus local model, which is almost like we know we need it, but we don't like it. And there may be an opportunity in that strategy to go more to a host visitor model. So where we do a better job of socializing whatever our marketing messages are and down. So that's kind of the overall, I think we have opportunities. We're starting to plug in a lot more with the Utah Office of Tourism. One thing that is interesting is they presented the In Love in Utah campaign at the business summit, and it was a hit. People really liked it. Well, the problem is that's coming to end of life right now. So obviously that was in place, but it wasn't maximized. It definitely wasn't used by this DMO. It's a very competitive industry. So you ride a United Airlines airplane right now, you pick up Hemispheres magazine, there's a full page ad for Gallup, New Mexico. They're building mountain bike trails. Bentonville, Arkansas, their DMO, they're claiming to be the capital of mountain biking. We have a Slip Rock Trail, that's the St. If you're a golfer, there's St. Andrews, you can build great golf courses, but there's only one St. Andrews, there's only one Slip Rock. So we have opportunities, we gotta figure out through strategy, what we wanna do. So, going with that model, I'll echo what Nick Salata says is, we probably have the best product. We aren't having to drag or entice people to come to a place like Gallup, New Mexico. They're gonna come here no matter what. This place is David Williams says, Mother Nature, this is one of her favorites. So, that's kind of where we're at. And so in terms of knowing that we're in a very competitive industry, we put forth, things we've researched to talk about, to see where you want to go. So do you want to start in the red, or should I just go talk through the different numbers?
Well, since the worksheet is spread out with the film, and then the tourism, then we should just go through this one as first.
I think you brought in film pretty flat, so.
Yeah, actually, film it's way down, but that's because there was a big number on the responsible rec transfer, which wasn't really an expenditure to you all.
Maybe on the heels of what Ben just said, we can start with the promotion side and then go
Okay.
back to.
Okay, let's do that. We'll come back to. So again, no, we do have some revenues up there for reference, but right now we're really looking at expenditures. We will jump over the employee costs because they are, based on actual. So yeah, Ben, maybe you can just start walking us through whatever you think is notable.
Okay, so we're looking at professional services. So professional services, this has been echoed by our TCAB. It's something we understand. We need to somehow procure a public relations firm. There's so much out there in the journalism world. We need a public relations firm that can guide what's out there that's not coming from our office. We have the Go Utah Leads, which is, we have a contract with them. They give us tourism leads that we send our materials to. We put in 48,000 for a tourism economics, whether it's a Headwaters type or a Longview Partners, something like that. GovOS for 27,584. That is the tool that is exercised by planning and zoning for cleaning up or understanding the short-term rental market, and if it's fully legitimate and paying in the right tax model. So that's not something that we really have a choice. That's on it. We put in our budget. CrowdRift, that was an automatic renewal. This is one that we'll try and maximize. But this is one of those assets. It's what it is it's user generated content, which is a very good opportunity because it gets us out of possibly having to bring talent in, film crews. This is one that had very low usage. So we're starting to understand how to use this. This also is a company that works very closely with SimpleView, which is our new platform. So there'll be some opportunity there. In fact, we're sending Pixelata for a week or for a few days to a CrowdRift social media training next month, so we can start leveraging that. If we go down to the next, if we hit data.
Okay, yeah, right, the big.
So data,
My apologies. I will watch it on the.
okay, STR data, that's how we understand our destination reports, what the hotel models are. Symphony, that's short-term rentals, a lot of other metrics that we can dial into that helps us with our economic piece. We got quoted 65,000 from Zardico. Our current geofence tool is Placer AI, which will expire in June. This is through Love. I don't feel like that's been a great tool for us, and we've had a lot of benefit. Some of our other fellow DMOs have had good luck with that, but we will understand that. But I think that come June, there's some big advantages to going with the Zardico, and the people that have seen the presentations, and we'll give more of them to whoever stakeholders need to see it, should be in on that decision, but that could be much more helpful in who's in our county, who's waiting in the line at Arches, that kind of situation. Vis-a-vis, that's necessary for understanding our European travel model, because that's the credit card spend. And then e-approval, that's our events tool, so that's necessary there. So we have that data.
So a lot of this appears new, or
It's not, so it's been baked into the Love contract, into the data side. I think the decision was made a few years ago that if Love did it, then they would create the presentations for it. You know, what we're trying to do is understand and bring it back in-house, and measure it. If there's an advantage through Love or some kind of co-op that the prices have, then we want to definitely take advantage of that. But we have tried to delete some other softwares, so we don't have duplication or redundancy. And then we're getting what we need. So if we go down, what's another one that, you want to hit that, paid media. So
is this the traditional promotion?
yeah, this is paid advertising,
Yeah.
so, we have the Grand County match of the Utah Office of Tourism Co-op marketing grant. We were given 85% of our ask, which is $212,500. I'm gonna skip the next one and come back to it. The next is international paid media. We know that we have an opportunity to do more in a much more targeted way, whether it's with a Herman Global, using the algorithm social media model, or going like we have with the National Geographic targeted media models. This will all be hopefully higher return than it has been this past year, because we'll now have a better web platform to maximize what we put out there. We've been kind of handicapped on that one. Billboard leases, we know that that's important to keeping that inventory. And then the guest guide, it's a regional guest guide. Moab is in it. The metric we've used is those things, they keep running out everywhere they're put. So when those start sitting on the shelf, will be time to think about not using them. But the advantage to those is we are advertised in them, and we partner with San Juan County all the way down and now to Kanab. And there's articles written. So, you know, for instance, the new things that are here, it may be that thing for the repeat visitor. That paid media placements for $1 million, so that's a big number. That is one that came out of TCAB, where our TCAB chair asked Love, said, "What would you do if you had another $1 million?" I said, "Well, we could put more placements." So that big number is in there, in that, you know, a placement can be anywhere from 100 or 50 to 300,000. That could be 4 placements, 10 placements, but that is a placeholder that not to be turned up or down, but it's in there. That was asked, and so it was put in.
Yeah.
The other thing that I feel strongly about are travel trade shows. You see those numbers are higher. ITB, so went to ITB last year. This is a marketplace where meet directly with the tour operators. The European tour model is very much organized tours or the traditional travel agencies like we used to have. It's an expanding market. It's where the itineraries for a lot of people are planned. It's the fly and drive market. The reason that number is higher is there's an advantage to us going with the state of Utah. If we go and be part of Utah's Office of Tourism's Germany strategic partner, we will be placed in a market where German appointments will all be made for us. We will not be on our own trying to pull in people to meet with the tour operators. We will have a full docket, and I'd like to take 2 people to do that so that we can either maximize and have more meetings, we can split the duty, or have one person meeting and the other looking at the show. The show is, in your mind, figure 10 Walmarts. That's the size of the super Walmarts. That's the size of the exhibition. Everything from small adventure travel to large world tour. It's every country there. It's a learning place. This past year, they realized there was people from Moab, and it changed their presentations from German to English with the dark skies model, because that in Europe is one of the biggest attractors right now.
Do we have a booth there or just?
We had a booth last year. I partnered with with Navtech, but I think this year we're better off going as part of the Office of Tourism German partner. IPW, the same thing. We pay to be part of the Mighty Five. And then that's another one where I'd like to take 2 people instead of just myself this year. That's one where last year had 42 organized meetings, as well as 8 that I added on. It's very much, it's a great marketplace to meet, but then it requires a follow-up of getting back, contacting, staying in touch. These markets very much want to know what the new offerings are. They want to know how they can be sure that as they're selling big tours, that they're not going to get X'd by a timed entry. So it's a important place to be. TTRA is the back end measurement piece. That's tourism travel research. That's where the economists and the people looking at the impact studies are looking what's done in the measure and the marketing side. It's where people like Albuquerque find that their fly drives were a mistake, because the market they were targeting is driving there instead of flying. So it's then we have the usual UTA, UAC, things we didn't attend last year were Go West, IITA, Outdoor Rec, Grand Circle. There may be some regional economic summits, but not so much the economic summits, but the regional ones, the Go West, the IITA. I don't think we can afford not to be there. That is where the tourism planning and the conversations are happening. So I believe we need to be there. Simple View, we know we're bringing on our new web platform. Familiarization, we have that at 1,000 a month. That may be a little high, but we wanted to put that in as a feed number. Familiarization is very good way for marketing. It's travel and trade that comes here. For instance, Mick and I were involved last week at dinner with 14 travel tour operators from Australia and New Zealand. It's very easy to sit for an hour and a half and talk about the Australian market, which is a longer staying market, saying you're going to see all these other counties, but here's what to look for when you go to Canyonlands tomorrow. You're taking the train home. It's like, send your people here. We have much more to do than 2 days worth of stuff. So, and our new person that's coming onto the team has a very good media background. So, looking forward to leveraging that talent with working with these travel writers and people to visit on that side. So those are the big numbers.
We got the big one here. So the promotion was a big, and creative services, I'm sorry, I don't know.
Creative, we got creative services, very important. So the creative services, we believe it's time for a new branding effort. We had Discover Moab, we had Nature's Masterpiece. Just like the state is now moving away from Forever Mighty, sticking with their Red Emerald strategy, they're next going to tourism stewardship and a responsible recreation message that, they'll be rolling out. And did they say spring of 2025? They're working very hard on this one, but we think it's time for us to get plugged in with a creative strategy that's done by an actual creative agency, that then we can start building our inform, inspire, hopefully monetize against. What we did there is, the way we came with that number is we took the 3 quotes we had with companies that we've really done due diligence with, and then just put the average to get a range. So the range is, 135,000 all the way to 1,375,000. $1,357,500. So it's a big range. I think we are in the place where just throwing money and people at it, like our old days in the tech industry, are not the way. There's efficiencies in the model, and there's hiring the good agency. One thing that I think we've learned in the last year, I've learned, and then bringing on a subject matter expert in our first marketing assistant marketing officer, is that Love Communications does some things very well. They're very good at what they do with the state. However, there may be opportunities to diversify our marketing suppliers to maybe some smaller, more boutique competitors, or I don't want to say competitors, but other DMOs like Wildly Wyoming, South Dakota. It's very much becoming almost like a movie trailer model, very inspiring, very inviting, and so without going into a lot of detail, plugging back into the Red Emerald strategy, it creates that awareness to then decision to act, get you in that travel. So that's where we're at on that. So I would open it up to questions on these things.
So where are we in terms of the size of the DRT promotion fund balance?
I didn't come prepared with that information.
But I do have, one of the next tabs to talk just about revenue.
Okay, but I guess it's,
Yeah,
I mean, I know sometimes in the past, it's maybe been approaching the statutory limit, and that might be a reason to increase budget or not. But so you guys are not sure whether we're bumping up against that limit?
We could find out.
Okay, but I mean, it seems like an important question.
yeah, we have the data, and we were looking for one more batch of data as it comes in at the end, or in a couple of weeks. And I scheduled the budget advisory board around that.
But that would be important for projections, but fund balance.
Oh, I'm sorry. The actual one.
For the travel line, and I'm not familiar with what all of these are, UAC I recognize, but do we take like a road show for those? Do we have a presentation that we give? It's like.
Not at UAC, we attend that, and we are part of the DMO track. There's 2 tracks there. There's an economic track and a DMO track. And last year I was in the economic meeting, but this year was much more important to be in the DMO. So our fellow DMOs from Utah, other counties are there. That's an important one to be at, because that's more the legislative and understanding, comparing issues that we're all facing, understanding what certain opportunities are. For instance, that's where we learned that with the Olympics coming in 10 years, the state right now has got a strategy to add 20, I believe it's 20 new state parks. They've, and in that presentation, you learn that they've standardized their housing. So if you look out at Ultra Raptor, they're building standardized housing and a few extra pieces for visitor rental. UTIA is more of another informative. That's where we go to find out what is happening with the Office of Tourism, the Olympics, film. And then there's breakout, astrotourism, agritourism. So does that answer your question on that?
Yeah.
So I guess another question. So if I'm reading it correctly, this is a 82% increase over last year's budget.
Yes. No, I think it's more than that, isn't it?
No, yeah, 112% just.
Just for that line item you're asking about though, right?
Oh,
Oh, okay. Well, I'm looking at that subtotal tourism promotion. It
Oh.
says 180.
oh, this was actually, so this is, this 181 for just this particular section, yes.
Okay, so,
But you know,
so that's.
but overall, the whole entire budget is only 112, so maybe it's just a section, because one thing we have to
Then
do
what
here.
went
too-
down if that went up?
These are some of the grants, so actually some of the expenditures Ben has above here actually should be allocated to the grants that, so they're matched. So this number may be, overextending what it really is, because we haven't allocated the grant funds. Or grant expenditures to match to the grants coming in. So a worksheet issue.
Well, the expenditure, it's that 212,500 on the top should be the expenditure on that co-op grant.
But it does, I mean, we've got a line item there that's, for the creative services, it's close to $1 million. And previously it was close to zero, so it seems,
Although I think too about the creative service, the creative piece is if we did go do the rebranding, that's not an every year thing. That I believe Nature's Masterpiece and is that in its 5th year now? So it's
Yeah. No, but I think it's worth mentioning here, promotions. Almost doubled, and this has gone up considerable, but I mean, this is a strategy. And then it needs to be reviewed by our,
yeah,
By us.
I guess the point I'm making is these sort of big decisions about directions shouldn't be made, within a default budget. I mean, the way we've done it in the past is then his predecessor would come to the commission and say, okay, here's, options A, B, and C. Option A, we kind of keep spending about the same, and if we could spend an extra, $300,000 as we do, and then, the commission is presented with those, options on equal footing. We have a discussion about strategies. We think this is worthwhile. So I mean, it seems if we just were to get a budget with a, near doubling of an important line item, that doesn't make sense to me to have that as being presented the only option. So I'm hoping this is gonna be filled out with, other possible paths forward, and then we'll have time for a thorough discussion about this.
I think that this is what this meeting is for you to make that direction clear, so we can direct staff to present scenarios like that.
Okay, yeah,
no, that's very valuable. And we have between now and the time we recommend the budget. In actually just a couple of weeks, but then we still have that's when we present it to the commission for a final. So looking at the overall outcome, near the end of the year, we have some steps to take here. And I think I heard it loud and clear, hey, maybe we start looking at some options. So Ben, but I'll take ownership. The direction I gave you is like, present a budget that you think is based on current prevailing wisdom or the winds and what you think you need to do your job, and then let's present it, and then we'll look at options and considerations and come to something.
no, I think it's important. I mean, this is an issue that the public's very engaged. I think all the commissioners care about this and are familiar with it from past discussions. So, this is not like a staff level decision about, it's a policy decision that the commission can make, and those discussions go best if we just have some clearly delineated options.
Okay,
Not just, here's a default budget, how do you want to tinker with it?
yeah, that's very good. We can take that and move it on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. I knew this was gonna be a unique, actually, we're gonna come back to you, David, because you have a second here, but I knew this one was gonna be unique.
And that's why we did try, we didn't just throw numbers that we made up. We went and researched, and so we brought the different quotes we have but yeah, definitely do that.
And again, knowing how, if we are considering large budget changes, how that relates to the reserve fund. I mean, we can't spend money that we don't have. And if we've got a larger reserve, is it, something that's sustainable level of spending, or are we just like drawing a reserve down? That's important to know as well. I mean, I suspect we have a pretty big reserve, and that increasing spending is it's an option in
It's just your choice.
terms of numbers, but.
Okay, well, Bingo, let's come back to you. So we have a section here for just the film commission. We'll have you go through this. I think this one is probably pretty much, actually. half of what last year, that maybe that's because of bad recreation.
Yeah, because the total budget you usually include what goes to responsible rec versus what's specific to
Yeah.
the film commission.
Yeah, that's
So-
why it's.
So at the film commission, at this point, what we're looking at is remaining pretty flat, if not coming in slightly under, and doing what, the film commission continues to do with the budget that it is allowed. Ben and I have been talking through some of the things and, the European market is definitely something that not just tourism and promotions are good for, but in relation to film. And so I'm hoping that next year I can focus a lot on that aspect of things. I don't know, do you want to go through line by line of this stuff? I mean, it literally is pretty much the same and the numbers are not massive, but you get down to.
No, I don't think you
Budget
need to go line by line, other than just throw out to the budget advisory board as I think we still have a choice here to make on where our priorities are on tourism promotion.
37% of people come to Utah because they saw it in a film. It's an actual number, and so that's something that, you know, also moving toward the idea of film tourism as a bigger picture item as well. Familiarization and then pulling in the European market. Is definitely where I went to this year, in the past number of months. You know, met a lot of people, and there's a lot of people that do know that Moab exists as a filming location, and then there's a lot who don't think it's actually real. And then when they do realize it's real and that there's a person who's been here for almost 10 years with the ability to help facilitate that, it makes a big difference. So,
Yeah, kind of the same question I had for Ben, and those film festivals stuck out to me. Do we take like a roadshow or presentation to those?
I do most of the things that I've been going to. I have a shared booth with Film USA, which is it's an association of film commissioners from the United States of America. And we share a booth, and so the cost of those booths is less. And then some of the other ones, so I have, yes, so I have banners and things and a sizzle reel that you can actually watch on my website that also is being shown of the film history. We are celebrating towards the end of the 75th anniversary of this longest ongoing film commission in the world, but that's actually quite legitimate. I am a board member of the Association of Film Commissioners International, and when I go to these events where it's film commissioners from across the globe, which there's over 300 at this point, it all started here in Moab. And that's a pretty amazing thing in terms of, you know, film history and moving that forward.
The longest standing film.
Longest ongoing film commission in the world.
So then do we, or can we track return on investment for those festivals? Leads that kind of.
So it's not an immediate return on investment ever. I mean, I was just at a conference in August that I was part of the Association of Film Commissioners International, but the night prior was the Location Managers Guild International Award Ceremony. And I met a number of people, and 2 weeks after that, two of the people that I had met, one came down here to scout locations for potential filming opportunities. And she's based out of Colorado, but she wanted to add this as part of her portfolio as to be able to sell this area for her filming stuff. And then another actually very large motion picture that I cannot name that is going to be coming and scouting here to potentially use from that meeting as well. So the ROI is not immediate. It could be weeks, it could be months, it could be years. But the only way to keep track of a lot of the numbers of the actual income and the data is through incentivized projects that go through the state office, the Utah Film Commission. But all the other ones, I do my best to be in touch with the hotels and businesses and try to get, you know, heads in beds and numbers, total spend and where the money is actually being spent. But there's a lot of money, a lot of money coming in from me I'm doing all my in-house graphics, I'm doing all my in-house, you know, any of the ads that go into these things, that's me doing it. All the social media is me, you know, yeah,
I think even getting
Stephen,
out
could you
front,
scroll down a little bit?
I think that even getting out front with that kind of anecdotal information about successes you've had
Well,
from
that's what
those
I'm
trips. And just sort of making it a habit to reference like, oh, and I met this person at XYZ conference and. You know, cause I know it varies, it's very, very variable, hard to predict, hard to track, but even like that sort of thing and really
Yeah.
coming forward with that is really valuable.
Right,
So,
yeah, and then, you know, I was lucky enough to go to the Cannes Film Festival where we also premiered a movie that shot 2 films here, Kevin Costner movies, and from that Film USA, booth pavilion, I had over 3,000 clicks to
Mhm.
the thing, and those are all people that I continue to reach out with to, and, you know, after the fact, and,
Great,
you know,
yeah.
just, yeah, more. Yes, Kevin, you had a question?
Yes, maybe more a question for Stephen, but so like youth recreation has been cut to 0, it looks like,
Well, do you know what that
Well, looks
was?
like we didn't
I didn't
populate that,
cut that.
yeah.
Actually, that
That's
was
not
gonna,
my- that's
actually,
not
that was
my-
gonna be a question.
That's also not
Right.
my line item.
That I have when we're finished
Oh,
now.
I think that's. Sorry.
Is that a good time for that?
I think that should be populated likely with 137 as a carryover, but it hasn't been confirmed via a formal request from the Recreation Special Service
Okay.
District.
okay.
The total budget that I'm showing the ask for within just film specific is, I think it's just somewhere between 90 and 95K total, not including, just for my operational budget, not including salary and overtime for film.
And with salary and
Yeah.
overtime, it will be roughly how much?
Roughly one, two, I don't have that number. 215-ish.
215-ish.
Yeah.
So one point I was gonna make it, and these are my budgeting pet peeves, but sometimes, you know, if we're funding some department via earmarked money. You get in the habit of making the total budget track exactly what that earmarked money is. You know, whether that makes sense or not, and you forget that, well, we could have spent some at a different place, or we can also add some general fund money if the, you know, the earmarking. And so this is such a situation, we have a relatively small slice of TRE that has to be shared between responsible recreation and film. And I think it's easy to fall into the habit, it's just, you know, the total budget of those 2 departments has to be exactly what we think we're gonna bring in with the tax, but,
Yeah.
you know, if we think they're valuable programs, and I think, you know, both programs have, you know, some strong advocates. You know, then, you know, maybe we should be increase 10%, you know, with general fund money. I mean, that's not, we spend general money on a lot of different things. And I think some of them seem like of roughly equal importance to these. So I haven't taken a close look, you know, could be you guys are spending the perfect amount and, you know, no increases would be warranted. But I just think one of the options on the table is, you know, hey, we want to spend more. You know, we've only got this much charity money, but if we had an extra X amount of dollars and, you know. I just want to make, again,
Don't say.
I'm not
yay
saying,
yet.
I'm not gonna say I would vote for in favor of such a request, but it should at least be on the table that you
Yeah.
asked for, and that's a generic point, it applies to a lot of things that we fund via
Yeah.
these squirrely revenue sources.
I appreciate that.
Go ahead.
A question I had is, going back to ours is, you know, we're not asked to do any economic diversification or economic development numbers, but things that were presented last year to the commission that hopefully are in somebody's headset is things like the Grand County mentors, Beacon After School. So when you say those youth programs are those being figured somewhere? That was my question is, do we need to be putting that forward somewhere in a different form, or is that being thought about in a different department?
That makes sense to you on that.
Whether money related to the Recreation Special Service District is an appropriate.
No, just where those programs are funded from and what department, like. I know that last year, the Grand County Grand Area Mentors gave a presentation and the commission was in some way possibly supporting it, but does that need to be put in a budget somewhere? I think the ask was 25K. I know that's not a tourism promotion, that's not. But just knowing that was a gal, was just gonna be a question walking out of here.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for bringing up that one specifically.
That
Beacon, it would probably behoove. Stephen and I to include that for commission consideration.
Okay.
When those come up, and so we need to do a good job of tracking and cataloging those types of requests and intentions and relaying them to the.
I just wanna make sure that I
commission
didn't get forgotten about.
Yeah, thanks.
Are there any other film related questions? Yeah,
I just. Kevin mentioned pet peeves, so I was gonna mention one of mine. Under professional services, the 310-1. So you budgeted last year 11,000, you've spent 2395. And you're budgeting again 11,000, that increases 23, you budgeted like $2,000. So I'm just curious, like, is there like contracts or is that a copy? and
I'm
paste
just
number?
seeing-
That's-
actually. Professional services, like the co-producer for the event that I just put on a week and a half ago, Cinemoab, I actually hire out someone to produce that with me. Those numbers, checks have been cut and they've been submitted, but they didn't go into Cassell, and I don't know when they read on here. Because it's not reflecting in that, but I just actually showed it to Ben yesterday, like, we are at that amount, if not slightly higher at this point, so I might have to lose line items around, but it's. Sorry,
That's a timing issue.
It's a timing issue. So-
You're planning the same expense next year.
correct, yeah, and then professional services is also when I hire a tech to do the Star Hall, run the boards, I have to pay someone to do that. For any of the events that I put on, I have another screening coming up in November that I pay someone to run the boards for that, so it's things like that. Professional tech, yeah, I mean, it's mostly that. Last year, I believe that Real Scout was put in that line item, which is the shared database that I have with Utah Film Commission that has my production directory and crew database listings and my location database on the Film Commission website. So just about where those line items go, but yeah, that money is spent already, just not being reflected
Or do
there.
you think you're gonna go over?
Do I think I'm gonna go over? I hope not. I'm trying to be pretty on par with what I have to spend. But yeah, sometimes I do have to move lines, from,
That was all mine, it was just a dramatic increase,
I mean, I
and
think-
it was like. And I understand numbers don't go in,
yeah,
it was just a dramatic increase, and I just kind of a copy and paste. But that's all.
that's a Excel, that's a computer issue, not. I think the only thing that isn't in here that we did discuss was the possibility of a film commission vehicle lease that we have, but I'm just gonna throw it out there too. That's for scouting and taking people out. But that, that's not, maybe an additional 10.
That's all I had.
Okay, cool.
Good.
So I did. You can look at salaries in your department, but that is something that is definitely gonna change next year, and we're gonna try to divide the salaries between TRT tourism promotion and things that are not that. So is that already reflect, I just wanna make sure
The
that,
salaries are
Thank you for
estimated in here.
Thank you for mentioning that, yeah.
But it's just, there's no, it's all status
okay, so
quo.
I think it's, I mean, and Gabe understands why this is important, but, it should be obvious to someone reading this budget where the salaries are coming from. And I think, but I know the time studies are still preliminary, but I would tend to be kind of conservative and just assume that what's the highest proportion that might be non-tourism promotion. And then we can make adjustments later if it turns out, once we have information that percentage should be
Yeah, so
adjusted.
for starters, like a conservative amount would be on salaries for the tourism side, it would be 0.75x, and then the remainder would end up in a different line in the general fund.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we just need to make sure that if someone asks about that, we can document. So,
All right, well, I see a little bit of work here. The big action from here is maybe for you guys to work on a couple, or maybe another option. Maybe we call this one the aggressive option. I don't know, whatever word we want to have. Maybe we have the other conservative option. So we do present to the commission, we can say, hey, here's the aggressive and here's the selling points, the upside or the maybe even some risks to that, and then the other option, maybe status quo, but maybe you're not feeling it.
Yeah, I think the labels don't need to be so loaded. I don't think it just be A, B, and C.
Ben will think of something better than those.
Yeah, I think A, B, and C sound good names to me. I think one of them should be have the result of keeping our reserve fund, at the statutory limit, and not above, of course, but not way below either. And then we can look at ways if we wanted to, start spending down the reserves, what would that look like? So,
Okay, totally.
Well, that's the key action. Then another action from today is some workshops. Obviously, this is a lot to digest, so the budget, when we get into the next step, will probably require just some workshops just to dig into a little more detail for the budget advisory board and commissioners to understand these budgets a little bit more. They are complex, and it's not just understanding, it's making decisions. I think the commissioners are gonna have make priority decisions on how to spend their money, so that'll be the next step.
Yeah, and I was gonna mention in future considerations, I'm gonna firm up a sort of a schedule for these next 2 months. Workshops, topics that need to be included, other benchmarks that we need to meet statutorily as part of this process of adopting the final budget. But likely, the folks in here, the lovely staff here, I think that would, and Matt plus Maddie, I think, we'll probably draw you into one of those workshops as we did last year to really speak, to kind of like maybe give a even abbreviated presentation of what we're talking about here. Happy to do that. One thing for the record, I just wanted to mention that probably could have led off with the presentation of this particular department budget is that it's Fund 16 is funded by 37% of transient room tax revenues. Category subcategory 4111 rec film and convention is 1/5 of 37%. And then the other side of it is the tourism promotion side, that 4820. That's the 4/5 of that 37%. And so that's the funding for this particular department. Fund 16 also handles some other grants that aren't associated with TRT, but it's largely set up in that way. Probably should have let off with that, but thought it would be useful to just say it out loud.
That's good, because it goes to your point of just establishing a budget at those specific levels mathematically, or create a budget that has actions.
well, I guess my point was more about the size of the reserve fund. I mean, there is a rule. I don't know if there's any enforcement mechanism, but we can't accumulate too much. So if we're bringing in a lot of tourism tax, we have to be spending it, in these categories. And I know in the past, our spending has kept the reserve, kind of at the high limit, of course, the low limit, it could be a 0. And there's a high limit. We just want to know where.
All right, well, we have officially 1 more minute. Any questions?
Thank you. Thanks y'all for your participation.
Thank you. Ben, that was a lot of work. Thank you for that.
Okay. 11:59, I'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you all.